What's up, gamers? It's your boy, GoldDemon12, back with another Honkai Star Rail video. I've been goofing off. I'll say it. Um, but that's cool. Anyways, let's hop into this. The point of this video, the reason why you guys are here, should you summon for Topaz or Jingliu? And the answer is Jingliu. Yes. The answer is yes. Summon for the funny ice destruction character that is super goddamn cool. If that's all you want to know without going into nitty gritty, well, there you go. Summon on her banner. It is worth it for literally every single sort of player, unless, of course, you really don't like her. But even still, the banner is still worth summoning for. I don't know why you wouldn't like her. She's awesome, but that's besides the point. So, time to get into the finer details of the whole thing. I'm going to pull it up here. We need to open this image in a different tab so I can actually zoom in all the way. Oh my god, that's a bit much. Hey, Topaz. Looking good. So, next update has 3 brand new characters, that being Jingliu, Topaz, and Gunfei. I don't know how to say her name. I butchered it. I'm sorry. Correct me in the comments. I'm not gonna read. No, I'm kidding. I will read them. But correct me in the comments down below how to say it, because I do not know myself. And so we have the banners. We have Jingliu's banner, we have her weapon banner, we have Topaz's banner, the Zila rerun banner, and then both their respective light cones. So then, they have released the official details of the light cone, so I'll be talking about that more in depth, because I didn't in the previous 2 recordings of this video that I will not be uploading because, well, this did not need to have 3 recordings. I just didn't upload it. Bit of an L on my part. And that is it for this video, honestly. I'm just going to go over that. There's a whole bunch of other stuff about the update, how this update's only 5 weeks. In case you don't know, it's not a 6-week update, it's only a 5-week update, and so on. But to start, I'm going to start with Jingliu's banner, just to go over real quickly. You guys can see it on screen. It has Jingliu, Tingyun, don't know why I paused, Ching Chui, and Sampo. Oh my god, this recording's already off. But yeah, this banner's fantastic. Everyone knows that well, I don't know why I keep saying Topaz. No, it's not Yukong either. Tingyun. Everyone knows that Tingyun is basically a 6-star in disguise. She's fantastic, giving your team or your selected target a nice attack buff, right? Not big damage percent and energy. Fantastic for basically every hyper carry DPS team. And guess who's a hyper carry? That's right. She's also a cool character for a duo DPS comp. That is something that we can talk about in a later video on potential teams you may want to use her with. And I did make an infographic for it. I'll pull it up in another video. It won't be in this one. But this banner is completely stacked minus Sampo. So Jingliu is going to be basically the new best character in the game. Now, I'm not saying straight up that she is the best, okay? Personally, I'm placing her at number 2. However, right now, she is on par with Dan Heng in terms of like raw damage numbers. And so she will be really strong. And so for everybody, old and new players, great banner to summon on. Secondly, he has Tingyun. I already said, Tingyun's fantastic. Everyone needs Tingyun. Getting more icons for her is great. And then there's Ching Chui. So she is essentially Zila. So if you get her E4+, she's basically Zila level performance, right? And so that is for your second team, fantastic pickup, and just generally a pretty decent pickup as a character. So again, those 3, very strong banner. And then we have Sampo, who's basically a 0 unless you are using a Kafka team. So there's that. Overall, though, banner is really strong. And so on to Lycon banner. Lycon banner, we have Eyes of Prey, Make the World Clamor, and then I forget the other one. 4-star version of Meshing Cogs. I don't remember. But we do actually have the light cone information here. It's called Memories of the Past. Yeah. So to start with the 4 stars, Eyes of Prey is basically the default Nihility light cone for basically everybody, unless it's like, you know, Pearls of Sweat or like the event light cone for like Pella or like someone else. But all the DOT users want Eyes of Prey as like their 4-star option, and in fact, this competes with some of the 5-star options. This is an incredibly strong light cone for basically any Nihility user. It's fantastic. Make the World Clamor is basically a 0 light cone. It's beat out by the free-to-play 4-star in basically every single way, especially once you get your stacks. Pretty much a 0. It's gonna suck if I pull that because I do plan on pulling Weapon Banner, and so that's what it is. And then there's the Members of the Past, which is essentially a 4-star version of Meshing Cogs, except with you can't get the energy from being hit. But this can be incredibly effective on specific characters. Hopefully I get a few copies of this for my Asta specifically, and so on. And so the 4 stars in this banner, they're alright. Not anything crazy, but they're pretty good. And then there's Jingliu's weapon. So for those who don't know, and if you haven't been looking at the information, Jingliu's weapon, I've seen people talk about it being a universal tool. It's not necessarily a universal tool. It's more of, can the character practically make use of its passive? And it has a really strong passive, but not everyone can make use of it. So its passive is crit damage 20%, and when an ally gets attacked or loses HP, the wearer, right, it has to be an ally, not the wearer, to get this buff. So anyone else loses HP, the wearer gets this buff, right? Up to 3 stacks. Each stack increases the next attack. Again, only the next single attack by 14%, max 3 stacks. If it's maxed out, your attack will now ignore 12% defense, right? And it will be removed after you attack. And so the reason why it's made like this and works exactly like this is because Jingliu, she drains the HP of your allies, but not herself. So she will drain HP from the other 3 party members and instantly proc this max effect. So every attack she does in her transformation state gets a massive damage buff. And the reason why this is important is because her light cone versus like any other light cone for her is anywhere from like a 40 to 20% damage difference. It is absolutely massive, her light cone. I'm not going to sit here and say you need to get her light cone if you do want something for her, but it is a massive drop in comparison to like Dan on Aeon, right? Where Dan, his best in slot compared to Aeon is actually really close. This compared to Aeon is like, again, 40 to 20%. Massive damage difference between it. And Aeon has ramp up time, right? So that you got to consider that. This light cone, huge damage on Jingliu, but the cost is that you have to summon a weapon banner. So keep that in mind. Her weapon banner, I think, is pretty strong, all things considered. I'm going for it. If you get her, I can't really recommend going on weapon banners because, again, it's really just RNG. You're not really guaranteed, although these banners are better than Honkai, Genshin's, so do with that what you will. But, again, just keep in mind, a lot of power behind this light cone. And I do want to mention one note on the whole universal tool thing for this. Clara cannot use it. Blade will not self-proc these stacks either because it has to be allies. And so in a duo DPS comp, if you run Jingliu with any other destruction character, she can actually force proc 2 stacks on the ally destruction character. So if you want to run Blade with her, you can legitimately get Blade to get this full passive up basically every time, because, or at least 2 stacks every time, because Jingliu will drain HP from everyone else. And so there is a bit of compatibility there. Clara is basically a 0 on, because if she doesn't counter, you lose the buff, right? Everyone else, it's like an okay stat stick. Its base stats aren't as high as like Dan's, for example. Because and the thing is, I'm using Dan's light cone as an example, and Dan, because he's a destruction character, he's the most recent top DPS, and his light cone has higher base attack than the other destruction light cones. And so to compare this to that, this one's okay, but I can't really say it's a universal tool. As long as the turn happens and all your teammates get hit, yes, you'll get the full buff, but it doesn't work if you are getting hit, right? And which is kind of counterintuitive to destruction characters because they have higher aggro value, right? So this thing is iffy on everyone. And it's so, again, it does work on them, but it's not like, wow, this is the best destruction light cone sort of thing. It is really strong, but it's here or there depending on the use and how practical it is in the actual game. And so, to the next banner, we have Topaz, which has the new Nihility 4-star character, Luca, and Sasheng. And then, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. So, this is an okay banner. Sasheng is okay. She's kind of fallen off because it's like, why use her? Because she just doesn't output as much as some of the other characters. she's okay. Luca again is basically a 0 unless of course you're running Kafka, the DOT enabler. So there's that, and then there's the new Pyro Nihility 4-star character. She is pretty strong, but she again is a DOT character that wants to be used with Kafka. She's got some increased damage percent if you apply DOT, so it's gonna be really strong on the Kafka team, and this will be your burn character or your fire character for a Kafka team, and so that's great. But this banner has 2 DOT characters, which is going to be useless for most players, and then Sashang, who's already not really super good. And so, based on the 4 stars alone, I wouldn't really summon on this banner. Now, Topaz and Numby, this is a different situation. Them themselves are kind of shafted because they're a hunt character, so they're exclusively single target DPS. And now, knowing how she functions, right, it's like it's single target buffs for follow-up attacks, which can be incredibly strong. However, it's only for like one main DPS character, and that's Jingliu. Otherwise, she's not really all there. She's gonna be broken in like Simulated Universe, allowing you to get extra Kuros and fragments on like every fight. So that's cool. But most people, you don't need that utility, right? It's not something that is like worth summoning for. And then her actual kit is like whatever. I mean, she can do okay damage, but if you're asking me between like, oh, I need a main damage dealer, and my options are Topaz, no, get Jingliu. It's that simple. I don't care if there's like a massive drop in damage for each lower tier of Lycone because of how her passive works, right? I think Jingliu is the better pool, especially right now. Now, Topaz does have future potential with how she functions, right? She functions based off the number of attacks you can get off, right? And especially with how her mark works, you need to get off more follow-up attacks. And so if we ever get like a defensive character besides March, or any other characters that are heavy follow-up attack based, she will be better, right? Because Topaz, her usability like goes up with the more attacks you can get off, right? And so any character that does that is already fantastic to help her actual damage potential. And as for buffing follow-up attacks, she'll buff Jingliu's follow-up attack and make him do insane single target damage that competes with the other top DPS characters. So again, she's okay, but I can't really say to summon for her, you know? As for her weapon banner, it's got Pearls of Sweat, Moles Welcome You, and then Dance Lycone. So Pearls of Sweat, getting refinements of that will be great, especially if you plan to use it on like Pella for additional defense reduction. There's the Dan Light Cone was actually one of the better hunt light cones. This one is actually really good, giving you attack and crit based on the number of enemies that are there. And then the Moles Welcome You is the one that I believe stacks based on the number of attacks you do. Not number of attacks, but type of attacks. I'm gonna pull it up real quickly. Yeah, the Moles Welcome You. So if you do a basic skill or ultimate. And so the thing with this one is that not every destruction character right now can actually use its full suite of things because it's hitting with the attack, right? Yeah, so it's like hitting with the attack. So like as far as I know, right, Blade can't use this full ability. Dan can't use this full ability. If you want to use it on Jingliu, you have to, spare a turn first, and all that. So this is kind of a okay 4-star roster, and then obviously it's Topaz best in slot, light cone for the 5-star, and this will be good for her and follow-up attack buffing, but not something I really think is necessary. And so I think if you are like a Topaz enjoyer, you should get her for sure, but I feel like this is more of a character that you get on a rerun, unless you are grabbing every character or intend to use like Jingliu or like a follow-up attack team, right? You'd obviously want to get her because that's her whole shtick. So yeah, those are my thoughts on like the character, I guess, preview of the banners, right? I think across the board, they're all pretty strong banners, although in terms of the value pool, it's definitely Jingliu's banner, 100%. But if you want to argue Topaz as the better weapon banner, I can understand that because it has a kind of a stronger 4-star lineup. I don't know. Eyes of Prey is really strong for the healthy characters, but yeah, that's basically it. Tell me what you guys think down below in the comments. I've been GoldDemon. See you next time.